Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow-Driven CEO podcast. I am welcoming to the show Steven Falk. Welcome to the show, Steven.
Hi, thank you for having me, Bee.
Yeah, and you are living and from one of my most favorite places in the world, which is Vancouver Island. It's funny when we were actually quickly just talking briefly then, and I said, "Where are you based again?" And you said, this little place, or not little place, but this place called known as Vancouver Island. And it's my little, 6 degrees of separation with you is that I've bungee jumped there. And then you call out the river. And I have
There
some
it
of
is.
my fondest memories of Vancouver Island and Vancouver in general. So I'm pretty excited to chat with you, though, Stephen, because you said to me, and I'll introduce your company in a second, but essentially you are a safety culture company. And safety is I guess more prevalent than ever, isn't it, in today's society, in general in everything we do, but especially in businesses. And you are the founder and CEO of Switchback OS, or yeah, operating system. And you've had the business for 20 years, which is significant. And it's a leadership and team performance firm focused on high pressure environments. You've also authored The Switched On CEO, How to Think Like a World-Class Leader. There it is. Yes, I did check it out online. And you're known for bringing metacognition, memory processing, and resilience practices into safety critical and growth organizations. I'd love you to share a bit about your journey. I'd also love you to explain to the audience what you mean by metacognition, because I think that's super important. I mean, I know what it means, but I'd love you to share it in its most simplest term. And yeah, and it's like even your journey pre starting your business is fascinating in itself as well. So over to you.
Thanks, Bee. Hey, and hi everybody from Flow Driven CEO. Hope you have, hope you enjoy this time.
Thank
So,
you.
Steven Falk, and hey, I was one of those gifted and talented underachiever kids that was amazing at 5 and then didn't learn to read and write at 6, 7, 8, 9. And so my parents didn't know what to do with me, so they threw me into sport and a few other things. But had I known what I know today, I could have rewired my brain in 4 days when I was 7 years old and would have solved the problem because it was a visual tracking issue. One eyeball went way over top, and the other eyeball just laid a patch of rubber, as we say in Canada, and just sped right through. And I was just guessing everything. I would see words and I would just panic. So that's called the back brain. So I just laughed my way through school and then married young because it was very important to find someone that was functional to help me. And then together we went to college, and then I tricked people into graduate school, let me go. And I just by chance had a really great professor in California that his son had a very similar brain to mine and was failing high school. And so I should have been kicked to the curb, but I wasn't because a leader, essentially like a CEO, they saw past all my defenses and all my deflection and all the noise. And they saw basically a brilliant mind that was sort of a virgin mind still because it hadn't been corrupted by scholastic achievement because it hadn't happened. And so he took me under his wing, and I ended up popping out of that school with a marriage and family therapy degree. And my friends are like, there's no way you're going to be a therapist. Like, I know it's pretty crazy, isn't it? But my wife and I, we just smashed it out of the park. We ran a beautiful career, like raised 4 kids. And I was a therapist and she tested brains. And sometimes, like, I kind of got a little bit famous with working with autistic kids. And occasionally they would actually, with like horseplay in the office, a nonverbal kid would become verbal for like 30 seconds. And then the mom would go, I would
Amazing.
always have a parent in the room and say, hey, get ready for your rapid fire questions because they're going to let you in. And this little kid that's both of us are pouring sweat in my leather couch office. And there's this little kid behind me, right? I'm squeezing him on the couch. And all of a sudden he goes, Mom. And she goes, did you like summer camp? Is anybody bullying you at school? Do you still like peanut butter? And the blah, 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 blah. And then the window would close. It was fascinating. So we were loving life, but I always was looking for a stage that was different than what we were doing, just because I think maybe sometimes people say, overcompensation or acute sense of lack. But I don't actually think it was based on a wound, like, oh, poor Steve didn't learn to read, so now I have to be a big shot. It wasn't that at all. It was, I had a gift. I had a gift, I believe, given to me by God because I was miraculously healed at age 2 from meningitis instantly when
Wow.
my parents took me to the hospital. A bunch of other kids died in my little farming community.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I didn't die. And so I'm not sure why, but I always had this inside sense that I had a gift I had to share with the world. And so running a private practice is great. 2005, everything changed. I was just minding my own business and coaching minor hockey, and a kid on my team who was the kid that can ruin an entire team. He actually being punted, which means like kicked out of the travel team because he was so toxic. So they popped him into my team because I'm the therapist. And I turned him around. Like he fell in love with our team and my leadership, and eventually had to coach his dad to calm down. Anyways, his dad was one of the big shots on Vancouver Island logging culture. And so they were trying to come up with, oh, who should we help us with our culture? Because they had a terrible safety record. Should it be this university or this big safety system out of the United States? So he put up his hairy arm, said, I think we should give my kids hockey coach a try. So basically, out of the blue, the phone rang. It wasn't even this style of phone back then. And I called it the red phone, which is you go about life and you try your best and you work hard, but the real breakthroughs usually are serendipitous from my point of view.
100%.
They are not usually manufactured by me. And however you want to understand that, but I could tell that there's pixie dust in the air when this guy called me. It was like, oh my, like the spidey senses were like, and he said, Steve, I want to give you 80 men that have not gotten along with the management since 1946. Of course, it's a different group of 80,
Whoa.
but they average 50 grievances a year. And even the union has given up on them. You want to try to tune them up like you tuned my kid up? And I go, yeah, of course, because I was looking for that stage. And so I can't tell the story because it's such a cool story, but it's again, the change between the management and the union leadership had nothing to do with work, had to do that the two top leaders were brand new grandparents and they were failing as grandparents because they couldn't self-regulate at home. So they're still F-bombing at home in front of little tiny grandkids. And both of their wives had basically said, I'm done with this. You have to rewire your brain because if you don't, I'm choosing the grandkids over you because if our kids get wind that you're doing this stupidity in front of the grandkids, they won't let me have the kids.
Yeah.
So the wild thing is the big transformation in the workplace because they went from 50 grievances to 4 in 1 year. That's huge after like
Yeah, that is
1946 or
huge.
whatever it was.
Yeah,
Like
massive.
it was famous on the west coast of Canada as being the most miserable location for logging, a place where people's careers died.
Wow.
But the cool thing is the change wasn't like, oh, let's do change management, let's do this, let's do that. It was taking the time to interview everybody and find until they tipped their cards and showed like the underbelly, the soft spot, the place of pain that they haven't told anybody, helping them in that area, building their trust, and then call to action. Do you want to get along with with management? Like, hey, management, do you want to stop being idiots? And they both said, yeah, let's do it.
So you created the space, but you opened it up for them to be able to, the awareness to come through for them to then have the ability to be able to share and be at their most vulnerable. Quite essential.
But I would never use that word in a logging company, by the
No,
way.
that's what I
Nobody
mean. Like
wants
that's
to
what
be
I mean.
vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And most recently, we had a US client that had lost one of their members in a fatality, a terrible fatality. So they were asking in Minnesota, who can help us? Because we have to somehow fix our culture, not just our safety culture, but our culture overall. And the person in Minnesota said, "Hey, I think Steven Falk from Switchback." And then they were in Boise, Idaho, which is like the center of
Yeah.
wildfire. That's like the capital. That's DC for there. And they're talking to one of the people there, like a national leader, and said, "Who can help us?" He goes, "I know a business whisperer that could help you. His name is Steven Falk." So again, like that happened like 20 years ago, but just this year, the old good old phone rang again out of the blue. And all of a sudden, private equity from the East Coast of the United States is like, where were you 20 years ago? We could have used this skill set for the last, 3 or 4 turnarounds we've done with companies because we have the CEO, we have the HR, we have legal, we have finance, but we don't have a business whisperer.
I love it. Business whisperer, because I talk about that I'm like a relationship whisperer, but I haven't heard the business whisperer before because it's ultimately that's what it's at. Because,
Sure it
oh my
is.
God, I've got that many questions, Stephen. Like you've kind of just given me like a from growing up to now. And I'm like, I got
Not
questions
bad, eh?
back to when you were growing up. I got questions now. Where do I start? Explain to me back brain. I just want like that. I wrote that down. Like, tell me what you mean by that because you talked about that, and we'll bring it back up to the to now and what you're doing with businesses. But explain that to me,
When
please.
when I was when I was trying to have a breakthrough with, I'll show you a little picture. It's in my book, right? See those two mountains and then that valley floor.
Yeah,
A little bit rough, but I just want your audience to be able to picture in their minds, right? The reason I didn't learn to read and write in school wasn't because I needed to be on medication, is because I basically had micro panic attacks, and I would go from the front brain operating system to the back brain, the flight, fight, freeze. It's
yeah.
old as old, right? Everybody knows about that.
The amygdala.
Yeah, that's right. There's lots of fancy words, but I just say front and back
Well, that's what I
because
thought, and I was like, "What?" Yeah, I was thinking that, but I would. Yeah, sorry, keep going.
so then of course I've had to crack the code in my own life just to stay married. Otherwise, I'm just haywire person to be with. And I mean I am still married after 40 years to the same woman, and we have like 22 descendants. It's like really amazing.
It's amazing. That is
However,
amazing.
it is. And but so the back brain has the opportunity to switch. We can switch between these operating systems. And most people aren't that tuned in, called metacognition. They're not thinking about their thoughts, where they can say, very nuanced point of view, oh, I got a little tear in my eye, black back brain. Oh, my heart rate just increased, back brain. Oh, my forehead's getting sweaty. Oh, I just stumbled on my words. I just came up with a swear word in my mind, and I don't swear in public, but my mind is swearing right now. Why? So those clues are like the business whisperer's dreamboat toolbox, because then you can start coaching people to help them self-regulate. There's nothing wrong with using your back brain, but you want to use it on purpose with your front brain still in charge. So what we found is once I got deep into this company and safety culture and we helped them reduce in 2005, they had 153 safety incidents they had to write up. By the time they're done with the business whisperer and everything else they're doing, they had four.
Wow, it's
I
incredible.
know, with the same crew and the same, very, very, very dangerous environment. There's sort of lots of moving pieces. And the difference was the crew and the management and the foreman gained control of their two operating systems. So they knew when they were losing their mind. And then we say, like, the power of success is in team. The way that we got that safety result was, let's say someone's running a chainsaw, they're cutting a tree, and it doesn't go quite right. So all of a sudden, wow, they get that flight fight response, like, oh, I'm gonna die. Normally be like, I own this tree. I'm gonna take it to its final. I don't care. Like they become sort of ridiculous in your heroic efforts. Plus, you don't want to be shamed by being a guy that's got a cut up tree and you need to get help. We trained rugged loggers to
Yeah.
stop and think in the heat of the moment, full of adrenaline and cortisol. And they would literally stop, maybe light a cigarette, think about it, get on the radio and say, "Hey, B, are you on there, big girl?" And you'd go, "Yeah, I am." Say, "Hey, can you come on over and bring your saw?" And you'd go, "Oh, Steve pinched his bar. That's pretty interesting." But you go, Okay, what a move. The power exists in team. I'd come there. You're now the business whisperer. You're coming in knowing that I got a heap of past memories that have are just flooding in my brain right now. Like telling me you're useless. You're
Yeah.
totally
Yeah,
an
yeah,
idiot.
yeah.
You're a failure. You're
You
like,
can't
you'll
make
never measure up to
decisions.
anything.
Yeah.
And these are like 50-year-old men that are being pounded by memories from grade seven and ninth grade and their first failed marriage and blah blah. Like they're just being so the you as the partner in this situation, you're walking in, you have to come in slow and quiet and get down on one knee and say, "Oh, interesting. What are we at?" Keep your voice and your tone and your tenor calm, and then he's come up with a solution. And instead of this guy just muscling through with adrenaline and potentially killing himself, you come up with a front brain solution. So that works in the boardroom, that works in HR, conflict, that works in people's families and their marriages, but it was proven in industrial safety.
Yeah, I love it. It's so cool because it's so right. Like in terms of your front brain versus it's the newest part of the brain. It's everything, right? But there's also this bit's not going. The back brain's not going away as well, and it plays a role. It plays a critical role. But it's how you switch back and forth, like the ability. So that's where switchback came from because I was like, where did switchback come from? You're working with, as a business whisperer, you're working with some serious masculine energy, like a lot of behaviors, patterns that have been there for a very long time. And you don't have to give away secrets, but how are you going in and approaching them? Because there must be so much resistance and so much walls up from a starting point. Like you talked around those two CEOs who, with their grandchildren and the swearing and like it's a lot of don't tell me that there's nothing wrong with me. There's almost like that wall up, right? What is it that
And
you
the truth is,
do?
when you work with successful people, they what got them to where they are is how they have reacted to stimulus. And
Yeah.
now we're coming and saying, "Hey, there's another way for you to react if you'd like." Uh, I will give you one of our secrets. One is we have de-psychologicalized the process. So we don't call it treatment, we call it training. If it's really important, we call it safety training, and we say it's compulsory. Everybody has to take it. We never talk about feelings or energy or emotions. Like literally, those words are banned in our company. Nobody ever uses those words. We talk about our thoughts. And now we've created a new neurological pathway for people to be able to process deeply emotionally significant things in a language that doesn't go down the pathway of therapy, let's say. But they get to rewire their brains nevertheless.
So what would you use instead of like, feelings or the language of energy or like, do you use the word culture? Like what language do you use?
Well, we invented a term, and it's amazing because it's been adopted like nationally within like the fire wildland fire community in the United States. And so the term is a memory X, like the X.
Yeah.
And so the way we describe it is say, hey, when you're growing up, great memories get stored in the front brain. Memories that can't be processed in the front brain because for whatever reason they get stored in the back brain. And when you become an adult, you have the opportunity to maybe move those X's, but most adults don't. They just leave them there and they kind of tuck them up on the mountainside and put them in a little cave and maybe even organize them thematically. So like all of these ones sit in one spot. And it's all fine and good until you have the right stimulus and you get that shot of adrenaline. Poof, your neural processing goes to the back brain, searching which cave is it? Oh, what's the code? Opens the little cave door. Oh, there's the collection of memories. Very good. And guess what? You've just switched operating systems. So, like when our wives say, stop being such a big baby. You're acting like a baby. Literally, we are. You sound like a spoiled brat. Yes, I am. Now, we'd never admit that, but if you like, if you and I hired like a linguist to travel with us and listen to people how they frame their sentences and how they structure
Yeah.
their words, there's front brain linguistic patterns and there's back brain linguistic patterns. And the back brain will give you a clue. So, as a business whisperer, if you start talk like we're doing a one-on-one, and I for what this even this conversation now, but you're like, oh, I got a bunch of X's, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I'm actually like just so fascinated. Like I'm actually thinking about my own front and back brain at the moment. Like, and
Then you're
you guys are
touching
just,
your hair, and
yeah,
it's like
because you're
and
giving
all
me
these
another
things are
spin on it
happening,
all.
right?
Yeah, you're giving me another spin on it all. And it also even kind of with what I do, and you asked me about inside out impact.
Yeah.
And just even that in itself, like you were asking me explain that, and I was talking about internal, external. And then you've got this
Oh,
front brain, back brain, and I'm like going, I'm thinking in my not even just about me, but I'm thinking, oh, this is all interconnected. Like there's like it's fascinating, right? Anyway, sorry.
I'll give you one example. So this, again, we work in healthcare and all the rest, but logging and wildland fire, like that's a sort of an untouched zone. So we just love being there. Giant logger with big giant shoulders that has a fake MBA, but a grade 10 education. When you get those MBAs, because you're so high up. And so you go for 3 weeks to Toronto and you get really drunk. And then at the end, they give you an MBA. It's amazing what $20,000 will buy you back in the day. So he's definitely not processed his memory X's.
No,
He came to see me to consult with me, and I go, oh boy, he's just full. You just like the amount of adrenaline coming off him is just amazing. He's like just fills the room. His legs are wide apart. He's like, "Rah," takes the whole room. I just imagine his truck not even turned off. It's still idling in my driveway. Rah, So I go, so do you want to do this fast or slow? He goes, oh, get her done, Steve. I say, well, why don't you describe the latest thing that you did that you were screwed up on so I can get a sense as to what we're dealing with. So he starts talking. I'm watching him like a business whisperer. And it doesn't always work, but I'm listening. And he starts describing when he just completely lost his mind on some of the crew, and he embarrassed himself by how
crazy, right?
deregulated he was. Yeah. But his right eye changed. And I just look and go, that right eye doesn't look 50, it looks 12 years old. That's I'm like watching. So I had to pause and go, he goes, well, I go, hey, your right eye did something funky when you were telling this story. He goes, oh, did it, eh? I said, yeah. Do you want me to? He says, yeah, have at her. I said, your right eye looked 12 years old. The mood in the room changed instantly. Like just like in the movies when
Yeah,
then the
I had
theme
one of those the other
song,
night.
Canada, Celine Dion starts singing the song. It's the song for the soundtrack for the movie. This is it. Everyone starts holding each other's hands. Like this is that turning point. He just softened. He goes, okay. When I was 12, I was in a tin boat with my brother. Because you're a local in Tawasin, which is a little, the ocean part of Vancouver in one
Yeah, it's
part.
beautiful. I can see it right now. I can
Yeah.
visualize it. I've been
So
there.
him and his 14-year-old brother and him were on a tin boat. It got wavy and choppy, and they took on water. And they decided to swim to shore. And it's the ocean. It's cold, and so he made it, and his brother drowned.
Oh,
His parents were alcoholics. His sister was sort of out to lunch, and so they were all counting on the older brother to be the hero. He was a call. He struggled with reading and writing, kind of like me. And so the whole family blamed him. He blamed himself. And so got a big, juicy memory X. And that X never was moved from the back brain. It stayed up on the mountainside in its own special cave. And there was all these other collaborating, evidence that this thing was really true, kind of like the limiting beliefs. And so I said, okay, I'm done. I'm not trying to embarrass you, but here it is. When you lose your mind, do you sort of become a 12-year-old? Goes, shut up. Kind of like right now. So let's rewire your brain. Neuroplasticity. People can change. Do you want
Yeah,
to do it?
100%.
Because yeah, I said, it's easy. So you ready? Listen to our non-psychological terminology. All you have to do is basically log that memory from the back of your brain to the front. Just get that thing out of the cave, hook a cable onto it, and drag it down to the front of your brain. Easy peasy. Your front of the brain has all the capacity to sort this thing out, just like you'd sort out a logging operation. You'll grade it, figure it out, process it. It'll find its place in the front of your brain. Do you want to do it? He goes, sure. How do I do it? He says, well, when's the last time we talked about it? Oh, 35 years ago. Okay. How about can you tell your wife? Sure. How about your adult kids? Sure. How about some of your supervisors? Sure. So I said, here it is. Here's my guess. If you kept score, like every time you talk through this thing, and you don't have to cry or do anything, just tell the story. Every time you tell the story, your front brain is listening and also participating. So it's slowly starting to it's starting to grip that X and starting to pull it down. So that's one of the 22, I'm sure, that are trying to call me right now. Can you hear it ringing?
Wow, yeah, it's incredible. It's so incredible because, it's interesting. You're talking about neuroplasticity. You're actually proving it out
That's
through
me.
lived experiences, right? You're talking a language to your clients in a way that, makes sense. And when you use therapy language, and my brain's also going to EMDR therapy where you've got the
Yes.
wand and you're like
Yeah.
removing memories that have, or like you're putting things back here, but you're also doing the opposite in a way. Like it's like,
Correct.
like
It's
because I've done EMDR therapy where it's like removing things that are sitting here and putting them to the back of the brain so that I'm clearing up my space for the front of my brain. But what you're also doing is you're also then unpacking it and the ability to then understand it more. Yeah, I'm not explaining myself very
No,
well.
you're doing a good job. I think theoretically, most therapy models actually leverage compartmentalization as part of the healing process.
Yeah,
Even breath work and meditation, a lot of that is compartmentalization. This is the opposite game.
that's where I'm
Yeah,
going. Like I love
this
it.
is integration, not
Yeah.
compartmentalization.
Yeah. And I think we
And
miss that so much, that integration piece, because it's a part of us. So how do we integrate
of
it? It's
course,
never going to go away. Like that guy who
no,
lost his brother, it's never going to
yeah,
go away. It's always
no.
going to be there.
So where do you want to store that memory? I mean,
Yeah.
there is a great metaphor. The master teacher, from my point of view, good old Jesus in the Bible, he told the story. It's the lost sheep and the 99. And so think about it this way. This guy had one lost sheep. I mean, he had tons of lost sheep, but this sheep was clearly lost, and it was outside of the team in his own brain. Independent operator had been lied to, had been abused, had been brainwashed. It didn't even know its true identity anymore because it was a part of him that was amazing, but it had been compartmentalized off because it had to for survival. Like your
Yeah.
brain does it just to survive. It
Yeah.
compartmentalized. And so when him and I had our little love session there and I saw his eyeball, and I was basically pulling a Jesus move. I was being the shepherd, and we're going up there. We found that lost sheep. That thing was spitting and fighting and biting and all full of fleas. We brought it down in front of his brain, washed it up, told the rest of the flock to integrate it in and not ostracize it. It's part of him. It's okay. And he became more whole.
Yeah, I love it. It's so cool. It's such a like, oh my God, I'm going to be thinking about this one for a little while. I think I'm going to be like processing this one for this conversation for a bit. I have a question. When you're being a business whisperer, I want to ask you about intuition. I want to ask you about sixth sense, right? Because again, back to this eye piece where you saw something that triggered this almost breakthrough. Well, it was a breakthrough, if
Yeah.
you like, or an awareness of you need to subtract it out. So I guess where I'm going with this is I'm asking the question around how much of what you do as a business whisperer is intuitive and almost the ability to read because it's a gift. You talked about the gift you've got, and this is an app. Like for me, this is a gift. Not everyone is capable of doing what you're doing, for example. How much of it do you feel, or, and you might just go, B, there's no intuition in this, but how much of this is just the ability to, I don't even know if it's intuition, but it's like that sixth sense, the ability
Sure.
to see something they can't see. And I relate to that a lot because I sometimes freak myself out a little bit when I'll talk to somebody and ask a question and they'll be like, how could have you even known that? Or how did you even, like it's curiosity, it's intuition, but there's also an element of, and without using, the terms like subtracting, you're subtracting something out of them that's been in them for so long that needs to be subtracted out. So there's almost like this subtractive psychology piece coming
Mhm.
into play also, right? Yeah, can you elaborate a little bit on that,
Sh-
please?
Yes. So we have a team, and there are times when often our clients will phone and say, "We love you, Steve, but is it possible for these two people to come?" And so they have a different. It's not like they weren't healed of meningitis and had a whoosha
Yeah,
moment, right?
yeah.
Or they learned to read and write. They went to university and had a great time. So they have a different story, and yet they carry the same basic what we're talking about. I think it starts with a foundational belief system. The belief system is, are we like useless animals that need to be culled, or are we created all individually custom made? And if you believe that we're just sort of animals that need to be managed and culled, then there's a very hopeless sense around neuroplasticity, about really having an interaction with somebody that can change their life. If you believe, on the other hand, that we're created beings, and we're all unique and very interesting, we train entire sectors to become business whisperers themselves, just by, we use the term tickets. I know it sounds silly, but of course, like memory X's, tickets, it's another one of our phrases. So when people are just joking around, they're giving out little tickets. And if you want to become more sixth sense about it, you listen, you laugh along, but you're also listening for that ticket. You're watching for the thing that's going on, both in play, but also behind the veil. And you don't necessarily bring it up in front of them right then, but sometime in that week, you say, "Hey, remember when we were talking? You mentioned this, but I heard something else,
Yeah,
maybe like
yeah,
in
it's
your
good.
throat."
Oh, yeah, it's very good.
And that is a teachable communication skill.
I agree. That it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, I'm super conscious of your time and probably 20 calls you're getting around the Business Whisperer. Tell me just a little bit about your book and how to think like a world-class leader. Yeah.
Well, the book is just is a way for us to get our ideas out in the open. And we could have said a world-class logger rather than a world-class CEO, but we knew that the CEO needs to read the book in order for that person to be able to open the doors for other people to have a transformative journey. And s- and so I wrote the book to the CEO. I mean, we love CEOs, and so it's just basically the pathway. It's my story, along with our theoretical model, and then it's just interwoven in and out. And by the end of the book, you've got basically what we're all about. So it's a wonderful read.
Yeah, I
I
look
think I
forward to it.
just shipped 10 copies to New Zealand that are heading to Sydney, Australia. So
You've been to Melbourne 10 times. Oh, I'm gonna have to order your book. You said people can change. When you booked it for the podcast, a couple of final questions for you. And I asked, what's one unique lived experience or insight when it comes to life, leadership, or business? And you said people can change. We've talked obviously a lot about that. The power of success is in team. You put team in capital letters. Memory storage and processing is key. Is there anything that we haven't covered off that you would like to share in addition in response to answering this question?
sure. I think it's nuanced, but it's our 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 civilizations are becoming very fractured and very us against them, and even I have lost my nerve to socialize as much as I used to, which is weird.
Yeah,
And
it is.
and we don't go to the movie theater, we just watch Netflix. Like it's so easy just to be entertained by this. And so when people try to make a change, they often try to make it in a private, individual, personal way. And it's the success rate of that is very, very, very low. And so I would say to your listener, and especially those that are in leadership, you got to crack the code and get the change happening, not publicly for the whole world to see, but within the teams.
Mm.
People have to find a way for them to talk about their transformative journey, success and failures in the team environment. I mean, 100% within a marriage and a family, but even in the workplace. And so HR has just freaked everybody out around
Yes.
stepping over the
I'm
boundary.
into that. I'm into that. Like,
Yeah,
seriously.
and so I would just encourage your listener to take a hard look and say, how do we rehumanize the workplace in an appropriate way? And you have each workplace will have like half a dozen really miserable people. Become fascinated by them rather than frustrated. So here it is. You have this miserable person, let's say in IT. Now ask the question, like, why are they miserable? And how are you going to figure that out other than listening and engaging and watching for those tickets and watching even their eyeballs and their forehead to see when they switch from the front brain to the back brain.
I want to
And
be
when they do,
watching
you
that.
don't pounce on them, but you go, oh, there it is. And win their trust because they know intuitively need to tell their story in order to move their X's. You can't just daydream your X from the front of your brain, back of your brain to the front of your brain. It doesn't happen because we've conditioned our brain to accept how the homeostasis. We are happy with how it's set up. So we
Comfortable.
need team, capital team, in order to be able to harvest these X's. And as leaders that are watching and part of your fan base, what a cool addition to your sort of workload is to be part of that process of building a culture and a work environment where you're not the guru, you're just creating an opportunity for people to really rewire their brains.
Yeah, it's so cool. Steve, gosh, I could talk to you all day. Like, seriously, thank you so much. How do we find out more about Switchback OS? How do we find out more about you? Where do we get your book from?
So the my book is on Amazon, so that's easy. Uh, and then Steven Falk switchbackos.com is our website. People still have those. And we have like a 12-week mentorship program that is amazing that would fit your Australian listeners as well. And I mean, sure, your worldwide listeners, but so that's a way to actually just engage with us, like for real. And then our 3-day Switchback Foundation training, that's the one where we literally flew to 10 trips to Melbourne to work with one entity, one of your crown corporations, to sort out their X's. And their X's had to do with those big fires that happened. Remember those big fires?
Oh gosh, yeah, Black Friday, Black
That's
Saturday.
right, Black
Yeah,
Friday.
but
Yeah, Friday or Saturday, whatever it was, right?
yeah, I remember
But
it. Yeah, it was a while ago.
so even though it was a while ago, it was still interfering with their day-to-day
Yeah,
success.
it's the P. Yeah. Oh gosh, we could go into a PTS, post-traumatic growth. Like I know that's a thing that you're going to use, but you know what I mean. Like we could talk about that as another topic. Gosh, I feel like I'll be having you back on the show at some point. And
We
I'm
need to
like,
talk about Marysville. Remember Marysville? It's a little bit north of where you guys
yeah, no,
are.
I grew up out that way, so yeah, I do know it well. So
That
yeah,
that 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 town has a town X that they haven't moved.
yeah,
So not only individuals have X's, like towns have X's, counties have X's, entire countries have X's.
yeah, and that's the impact that from my own business, Bee Formless perspective, is that it's all interconnected. I think I said this to you pre-show. Like it's the leader, it's the team, it's the business, it's society. It's all interconnected. Like you say, they all have X's. So how do we
Yes.
bring that together, and how do we truly make that difference from the inside out? So
We can't you see the movie like Marysville, the community coming together and spending a weekend together and talking, and some people are overreacting and underreacting, and some people are like this, but you love them all. And it's not just a one and done. That's like that yanks it to the edge of the cave. And then 6 months later, you have another meeting, yanks it more, and then maybe a couple Zoom calls and a few this and a little bit of that. And over time, that X works its way down the mountain, and that community is rebirthed, reborn, transformed.
oh my gosh, so
Healed.
cool. So cool, Steve. I won't say I love your energy. I'll say I love your vibe. I love everything you're doing. And yeah, it's been a real privilege talking to you today. You've certainly you've certainly got me switching back from front to back of mind and thinking about it in a completely different way. So Steve, I'm just going to say have a wonderful evening and yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, B.
Take
Talk to
care.
you soon.
Yeah, take care.